Hello, hello, hello. I am Valerie Day. I am the host of your podcast, Prayers and Pussy, where we have candid conversations about spirituality and sexuality and everything in between. And I'm super excited about our guest today. I met Anja quite some time ago, and we can talk about that in a bit, but she is really, we're going to be talking about the sexuality side of things. I think spirituality and sexuality are all under the same umbrella, but we're going to go deep into the sexuality and pleasure side of things. And so I'm just excited to get out of the box and invite each of you today to just have an open mind as we explore Anja's journey. Anja and I have something in common. We were both raised devout Mormon. And so I'm just excited to hear about Anja's journey from Mormonism to Tantra to Goddess of Pleasure. And she's just really living a life of pleasure and helping others live a life of pleasure and really living outside of that box that I think we get stuck in, being raised in some devout religion where like sex is a taboo topic. So we're just taking off the sex is a taboo topic today and really just no holds barred exploring pleasure through our expert goddess of pleasure, Anja. So maybe if you could kick us off, Anja, with just sharing with our audience about your journey from, Mormonism to motherhood to Tantra to, goddess of pleasure, and kind of tell us all about that
I would love
evolution
that.
of your own sexy self.
Yes, thank you. Wow, yeah. So it has been quite a journey. I started out pretty devout Mormon, grew up in
Uh-huh.
Idaho and Utah,
Uh-huh.
and was really, I would say I was a believer. I had my own special mystical brand of Mormonism that I subscribed to, which had some extra things.
Okay, I love that.
But I really wanted to be a good Mormon woman. That was
Yes.
like the path I was on. That was the life that I saw for myself. And, did all the things, like got married in the temple and
Oh,
like
wow.
didn't have sex with my husband.
Until after you were married.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Like sex was like so dangerous. Like
Oh.
that was so forbidden. I mean, I did have sex before I got married.
Just not with your husband.
Just not with my husband.
Truth be
Yeah.
told.
Yeah, because it's pretty great. Sex is so great.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. It was irresistible. But I went through like this whole repentance process and like did all the things to be worthy according to
Oh,
the church to be married in
okay.
and really, it was just like a couple years after that that things started falling apart. Like I did the good Mormon thing and had a baby right away. And I was sitting with my baby and reflecting on my life. Like I'd done all the things and that I'd been taught. And here I was at the pinnacle of life for a woman. I just had a baby. I was a
Right.
mother, and I was like, wow, is this all there is? Is this it? Is this like the destination? And I started reading a lot of feminism and a lot about Mormon church history and exploring sexuality in a more multifaceted way. My partner and I were exploring gender. Um, and it just stopped working for me. I was in Boston and they legalized gay marriage. And that was the end for me. I couldn't be part of a system that was so sexually oppressive,
Mm-hmm.
that had such strict ideas about gender roles and was going to tell people how they could love each other and how they could be together. So that began my transition out of Mormonism.
And do
And
you still have like family members that are very active and devout?
my parents,
Your parents, and they're
yeah,
still alive today.
yeah, they are.
And how did they handle that?
I did it slowly. And since I was living in Boston and they were in Idaho and Utah, like just kind of did it on my own.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they
It was a
learned like
little
a little bit at
easier.
a time.
Yeah.
And they're actually, my parents are really loving, accepting people. And
Yes.
they didn't really change anything in
Oh,
how
that's
they
awesome. I
communicate.
love hearing that.
Yeah. They just like kept on rolling with
Yeah,
being
that's
my
how my
parents.
parents were too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wasn't the first. I'm the oldest of 5 and I stayed in the church the longest. So
Oh, okay. So, oh, well, that was easy on you
yeah.
if you weren't the first. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was my journey out of Mormonism. And then I was like, I had a really deep mystical belief in spirituality. Like I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to be one of those people that leaves a really rigid religion and is like, there is no God, none of it matters.
Right. You
Like
still
I
had
really
that.
wanted to
Yeah.
hold on to the things that I felt were true.
Mm-hmm.
And some of those things were that my body is sacred, that the experiences that I have are meaningful,
Mm-hmm.
that there is like a creative force or a power that's bigger than me
Yes.
that I can like lean into for inspiration,
Mm-hmm.
support. Um, and I've held on to those things. Like it's been an evolution for sure. But for me, sexuality is sacred. Our bodies
Yes.
are sacred. Our pleasure is sacred. Like this is why we're here. We're here to experience things with our bodies.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I having pleasure be like the one of the possible things we can experience. We can experience a full range of things, but being able to like choose to some extent, like how much good we experience and how much bad, or being able to like influence that. And we all experience the full range of things. But pleasure is really, I don't know, it's a gift. I
It
think that
is.
pain can be a gift and struggle can be a gift. And there's things to learn and grow from in all experience.
Mm,
But I do like to align my life to maximize my experience of pleasure.
I love that.
Yeah.
And so, um, tell me more.
Okay. So, well, I did it. Like my journey was like, it takes a lot to really untangle deep religious conditioning.
Yes.
So it
Yes.
wasn't like I decided to be not Mormon and overnight I was living like my biggest, best gay life.
Right. Right.
Like
Right. Yes.
it was a transition. Um and it
No,
like happened a little bit at a time.
I met you through Stephanie. Now, when did you connect with her, and did you do her sacred birth work, or what was your connection to Stephanie?
I did do some sacred birth work with Stephanie. So I met Stephanie when I was working as as a doula and a
Okay.
midwife's assistant, and I was doing a lot of advocacy around childbirth.
Okay.
And I met Stephanie at a retreat for birth activists, and we connected like right away because she had like set up an altar for everybody, and I was like, oh wow, that's so cool.
Yes.
Yeah. And she was my business coach for, I did like 6 months of coaching with her
Oh,
around
that's awesome.
I had moved to a new city, and I was restarting my doula and Reiki practice and figuring out what I
Hmm.
really wanted. And through
Yes.
working with Stephanie, I realized I didn't want to do birth work,
Oh, wow.
that there was something else.
Oh. And wow. Oh my gosh. What a great discovery.
Yeah.
Shocking. Was it like welcome or surprising or what revealed itself?
It was exciting. Um, it was a little bit unorthodox. I don't even know if I really told Stephanie like what my realization was,
Oh, wow.
that we'd been working and talking. And at the time, I had become polyamorous. I'd been polyamorous for like a couple of years, I think, when I was working with Stephanie.
Okay.
And was transitioning out of a romantic relationship with my co-parent who I
Okay.
married in the temple. Um, and I was like starting to imagine a career and feeling all of that out. And what came to me was that I really wanted to focus my energy on my relationships with lovers,
Yes.
and that I wanted to make as much space for my sexual exploration as I could.
Mm, beautiful.
And yeah, that was my entry point into sex work.
Okay. Was well, I love that. And
Yeah.
that, yeah, and that you found that through like, okay, I'm going to build my doula business, but because Stephanie's such a great business coach, right? She took you into, right, where your passions and then that revealed
Yeah.
itself. It's
I
funny that
realized
you didn't
that
share
wasn't
that.
really what I wanted, that I'd kind of grown out of that
Yeah.
field. And I had always been really interested in sexuality. Like I'd work with these beautiful couples, and I wanted to know about their relationships. I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
help them have like orgasmic births. Like I was
Mm-hmm.
like,
Mm-hmm.
for me, birth is a very sexual event.
Mm,
You know, it begins with orgasm and ends with orgasm. That's how
right.
I see birth.
Wow, I've never heard it described like that. I know it begins with orgasm, but I don't think of it. So your vision was like, okay, when you're giving birth, it's an orgasmic experience.
It's like the biggest release a person can have, I think. You're like releasing
A being.
a being through your reproductive organs. And you have this cascade. If you have like an uninterrupted, unmedicated birth, you have like this cascade of hormones that is similar, some of the same
Mm,
hormones as having an orgasm. And you can have that feeling of like love and oneness and like, oh my gosh, what is this? And people do have actual orgasms too.
I did not know that. I
Yeah.
love learning this.
Birth can be pleasurable. My first birth was
Your first birth, not something that you were assisting in your own.
no, like the birth of my first child
Okay. Yes.
was was a pleasurable experience.
Wow. I love that.
I was on my own, and like I was gonna have birth in a birthing center. So I
Uh-huh.
kept calling the midwife, and she kept telling me that it wasn't time, that I should rest. And I went into this like deep rest state,
Yes.
and I stopped timing my contractions, and I just focused on relaxing and resting. And the pain was like, went away. It was just like intensity. It would happen, and then I would go back to, I would rest. And I did this for a couple more hours. And then there was a change, and the noises that I was making changed, and the pressure changed. And my baby was born like 15 minutes later.
Wow. That's awesome.
And I felt so high. Like I was high for months off of that birth. It was
Wow.
incredible.
Just the opposite of women that have postpartum. You had like post high, post positive.
Postpartum euphoria.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And so that was the beginning of your having that realization because you physically experienced that. Okay, it started with orgasm and ended with orgasm, and then it's just kind of
Yeah.
continued for you.
At the time, it like I really framed it as like this primal experience that my body just did. Like my body knew how to do. And it definitely wasn't painful.
That's amazing.
It was like I was in like this like altered state of consciousness. It was incredible.
Oh, and how was your second birth?
So I have 3 children, and each birth got faster.
Oh my gosh. And 15 minutes is fast.
Well, the first labor from like it was about 6 hours.
Okay.
So still pretty quick, but yeah, they just got faster. My second one was 3 hours. And that one felt more intense because more was happening in a shorter period of time, I think. Like I
A
wasn't able
rest
to go into
period.
like that deep trance,
Yes.
that deep like other space that I was in, that deep place of relaxation. Um, but all of my other births, they still had that euphoric component of like, wow, this
Yeah, the
beautiful.
world needs to hear this because, right, race consciousness is let's go like get your epidural and be medicated and not be conscious and
Yeah.
yeah. And like everybody's had choice. So like no judgment there, but like wow, like this is another way, right? This is, may this inspire. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's intensity. Like I remember I didn't actually have consistent orgasms until I was like 21.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started having orgasms, I felt like I was going to die. Like it was so intense. I thought, I can't take it. I'm going to die. I'm going to like cease to exist.
And what do you think that was about?
I just think it was really intense.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it is like like sometimes it's called a petite mort, like the little death. Like there is like a whole I guess you could say mythology, or there's stories around that. Like it can be like you're like releasing,
Yes.
you're going from one state to another.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And I like I didn't think I'm gonna die. I don't want to do this anymore. I was like, let's do more
No,
of
but it was
this.
just like so like, yeah,
Yeah.
over the top.
Over the
Like,
top.
I can't handle this.
Yeah.
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 Well, since we're talking about sex, yeah, I have that. I I'm going to be really embarrassed, but we're talking about it. So, for me, I experienced that when I when like somebody gives me head,
Mhm.
like orally, like it's like I can't handle it. It's like too much on my clit. Like, yeah.
Can be a
So
lot.
I think that's what you're talking about. For me, that's where I relate. That's where I connect the dots to that statement, you know.
Yeah.
So I could probably use some like coaching from you on that. But yeah, that's my experience.
It can
Yeah.
be hard to stay with those sensations.
Yeah. Okay, so where are we on the journey? So you like
So yeah, so I was exploring relationship.
yes,
Um,
right. You were like, okay, I want to experience polyamory and like love and relationships outside of the confines of, you know,
yeah.
what you had been in this monogamous relationship.
And the sex work for me, like having a clear agreement, like this is for a certain amount of time and I'm getting money, like that allowed me to like feel, I don't know, it's kind of like permission.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like I felt really connected to like my own desire and my ability to say yes or no to a thing.
Mm, mm. Yes.
It felt really powerful. And I was able, it was like the first time I would like I've consistently, well, when I was a mother, it actually like there was a big change. So since I went through puberty,
Mm-hmm.
I received a lot of attention from men.
Right. You're a beautiful, sexy woman.
And it was overwhelming.
Oh,
And I
yes.
was like, I had to like kind of build walls to feel safe.
Okay.
And then when I became a mom, it all disappeared. That was interesting to not be a sexual being at all.
Mm.
Like you have the wedding ring and you're pushing a baby carriage and all of a sudden you like don't exist anymore. That was
Like,
interesting. Actually, it was kind of like fresh air for a little while.
yeah.
But then I was like, I think I do want to be seen. Anyway, so so by having those clear agreements, it made me feel safe to open myself up to people's desire.
Mm, yes. Because it was a safe container
Yeah.
to really explore, you know, right?
Yeah.
So there was a limitlessness within the boundaries.
Yeah. And that was really fun.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so how are you still operating in a polyamorous lifestyle? How does that work for you? Like, were there any
Yes.
bumps along the way?
I've had a
Because
lot
that's
of different transitions within polyamory. But I've been polyamorous for almost a decade now.
okay.
And
So you're an expert.
yeah, I can't imagine living any other way.
Okay.
I really like being able to let all of my relationships develop along whatever trajectory they're meant to.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Like any relationship could have like all the options.
And so have you or your partners experienced jealousy, and how have you navigated that? Or
Yeah,
is
I've experienced jealousy. Partners have definitely experienced jealousy too. Jealousy is a normal emotion.
yes, it is.
Yeah, I had this experience a couple months ago that that I describe as an inner child activation.
Okay.
Like I was having an experience that involved it involved jealousy and it also involved feelings of being excluded.
Okay.
My one of my lovers was having an experience with somebody new and I was going to be part of that experience and I wasn't. Anyway, I ended up in this kind of like waiting space where my anxiety and my feelings and my erotic energy were getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I was like buzzing with so much adrenaline. And And something in me kind of broke
Oh.
free. Like,
Oh, wow. So
and
wow.
I had so much like jealousy and emotion. And it
And
was
when
my inner
something broke,
child, like my inner child really like taking charge and being like, we need to heal these experiences from elementary school.
wow, I love that. And
Like
so
my
were you
feelings were
able to?
totally out of proportion to what actually happened that night with the people that are here in my life.
Yes.
And it stayed with me for like, I can still feel it a little bit. And it's almost
Okay.
been 2 months.
Okay, so there's a little residual.
Yeah. And that was like an opening that involved jealousy. But really, it was an invitation into healing and integrating
Mm, mm,
parts of me that
yes.
needed attention.
Yes. Right. And so you got to practice speaking up.
Yeah.
And was that well received?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I
Because,
got
right.
all the support.
Okay. So you were able to speak up. Was it hard to speak up? How long did it take to really identify, like, oh, my inner child needs some healing and love and attention?
Um, it was like the morning after, and I was reconnecting with my lover, and I was having like all these emotions, and they were just listening.
Yes. Beautiful.
And they're a really good listener, and we have a lot of practice talking about our emotions and just letting the other person express emotionally without taking responsibility, without feeling like we have to fix it or like it's our fault somehow.
Oh, beautiful.
So I was just like venting, and they've also done a lot of work around their own traumas from childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And they said to me, they said, I think you're having a flashback. And I don't really have clear experiences of flashbacks, but
Mm-hmm.
with like PTSD, you go back into that experience of the trauma,
Yes.
and you can feel young, you can like have the body sensations that you had
Yes.
then. Or it could be just like the emotional content is just like right there in your face.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I realized, wow, yeah, I'm like in 5th grade right now.
Wow.
Yeah, it was amazing.
And what happened in fifth grade?
5th grade. So I was bullied throughout
Oh,
elementary school.
ah,
Like I never quite fit in. People would be my friends, and then everybody would not be my friends, and I would be like outcast.
oh. And that was all coming up.
And it was mostly girls that
Wow.
did this. Like it was all girls up until 5th grade. And 5th grade, girls were starting to like be a little like preteen, and
Mm-hmm.
they were
Mm-hmm.
getting interested in the boys.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, they were like kind of pairing up a little bit, and then the boys started bullying me too. And so
Mm.
like I had an experience of like everybody, it felt like everybody chasing me and calling me names.
Oh my God. And that's
And
what was triggered by this
yeah,
jealousy
and
experience.
there was
What a
like this
gift.
there was an added layer of wounding around my own queerness and my sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
I identify as being pansexual.
And
And very much
explain to
so
me and our listeners
pansexual
what that means.
is your attraction is about the person, not necessarily about the body parts.
Okay.
Although I am
Okay.
very much attracted to female body parts. And it's similar to being bisexual, just like
Yes.
bisexuality implies a binary. Pansexuality is more inclusive. That's why I use that label
Okay. I get it. It
instead of
makes sense.
bisexual.
Okay. I remember now. I have a friend that taught me that word, but I needed to be reminded of what it meant.
It's good. Yeah, it's good to
Yeah.
check in with our language and make sure we all have know what the
Well,
words are.
and that's what I just love how our world is evolving to fluidity and how you just delineated between bisexual and pansexual, and it's like the person and it's the relationship. It's not, yeah,
Yeah.
it's not the sexuality, it's the relationship.
Yeah.
Which
And
fits with where you were when you were first starting to say, like, hey, when you started to explore polyamory, you said, I want to explore my relationships with my lovers, right? There was
yeah,
no label beyond relationship and lover, which really fits with that definition of pansexual from
yeah,
what your heart was calling forth, right? Or your desire, where you were at with where you were going. Yeah.
that's how I like to move through the world.
Yeah. Okay, so back to wow, this is just so powerful that so that y- your lover was like, "Hey, I think you're," and you said, "I'm a fifth grader." Wow.
Yeah.
And so, oh
So in
my
5th grade,
God.
like, I wanted the girls to be interested in me, and they were chasing the boys around.
Oh, oh my
I
goodness.
just wanted the pretty girls to like me.
Oh,
And so, like, receiving that message, now I'm able to take my inner child in and
Hmm.
give her what she needs.
Yes, yes,
And then she
yes.
doesn't have to act out with, like, jealousy and try and control my relationships. I mean, she's been pretty good the last couple weeks, but, like, it's all an invitation to, like, explore how, like, integration and how we are what
Yes,
we are.
yes, our own stuff, our own story, our own wounds, our own, yes.
One of my friends made the comment, she said, "You like to do relationships in hard mode."
Oh my God.
You're doing this all in hard mode. And I'm like, yeah, it is kind of, you get all these like extra up level opportunities and like,
Well, I mean, that's interesting. Yeah. Wow. And how did that feel? Did that resonate?
well, at that moment, I was definitely going through something really hard. So
Yeah.
it's like, this is hard mode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get that. I mean, I think we're at choice and, I love earlier how you said, we're here in this world to explore our bodies and, what comes along with bodies is emotions and feelings, right?
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
right. And yeah.
Yeah. That's how we relate to each other and understand what's going on. It's because we're mammals.
So have you ever struggled with the I mean, it sounds like in the one relationship we were talking about, and I know you have many, but in the communication piece, because I feel like the communication piece is so critical in like healthy like relationships, and especially if in polyamory, it's not just a friendship, it's a lovership, right? That
Mhm.
so have you had to grow your communication skills? Was that always natural for you? Like, how did you navigate that piece?
Oh, absolutely. I've had a lot of growth. The hardest thing for me has been like really claiming my own desires and standing behind them.
Oh my God. Yes, that
Like you
is
have to be totally honest with yourself before you can be honest with anybody else. Before
yes.
you have to know what you want before you can communicate it.
Yes.
And in the past, I've found myself being afraid to ask for what I really want because I know that it would be hard for my partner.
Hmm, hmm.
And that didn't really work very well.
And so did you
Can't
find that
protect
as you
anyone
asked,
from
yeah.
there's no way to like protect people from having their own experience. Like if they're gonna have like it might be easy, it might be hard, That's their experience.
So as you shared that, okay, here's my desire, this is what I want. I'm guessing that there was a lot of trust that needed to take place, right? That, okay, I'm sharing something that maybe isn't gonna resonate with my partner, but I really love this partner and I want to keep dancing and co-creating with this person. Like, is the trust kind of that piece that makes it work and communicate? I feel it feels like trust and communication and I feel like know thyself is probably what you were just saying. Like
Yeah.
knowing thyself is so important. I
And
think I
now
struggle a little with that.
the relationships that I'm in now they have clearer expectations. And I don't agree to things that I try not to agree to things that I'm not going to be able to deliver.
Right. So we've been studying the 4 agreements law, so you can be impeccable with your word.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think in polyamory and in all of life, like, don't take things personal, right? So it's like there's that,
Yeah.
like, your desires aren't meant to be something that somebody else takes personally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I desire something in a different relationship, it doesn't necessarily have to do anything with this other relationship.
Right. It's very expanded, like, way of relating. Like, it's really evolved, right? It's like you're operating at an evolution above just like binary, male, female, like even whatever, just I might not even be using the words right, but like polyamory, I think you have to be really evolved. You have to be an evolved soul, I think, because there's trust and communication and authenticity and speaking up, man. Like just speaking your truth and knowing thyself. So it's really like a brave, courageous, and evolved lifestyle, I think. Yeah. So beautiful. Well, is there anything else you want to share about beyond like polyamory, like your work? Like, okay, so you have your polyamory, but then you gave yourself permission to really, you know, make your living in this sexual
Mhm.
realm. And was there like, what was that journey like? How did you give yourself that permission?
Well, I,
How did you evolve from when I met you, you were doing more like Tantra work, and now you've evolved to this. How
Mhm.
did you make that transition?
Yeah. So I was seeing people one-on-one as an escort, and I was a little bit in the closet
Okay, so
about
even when I met you way back then.
no, this was before I met you.
Okay.
So I had a pottery business. So I would tell people about that I did pottery. And I got
Okay.
really, really tired of talking about pottery. I was like, I want to talk about something that's relevant. And I had this idea. I was like, maybe I could tell people that I'm a coach, that I coach people around sex.
Okay.
And then I could like talk about some experiences that I'm actually having. And then like later that day, I was like, what would it be like to coach people around sex? And then I was like, are there trainings? Are there things that you could do to coach people around sex? And within like a week, I had applied to be in Layla Martin's
Oh, I know of
Vita
her.
coaching program,
Okay.
all about love, sex, and relationships.
Yes.
And that's like a Tantra. Tantra is the foundation of all that work.
Right.
And so I did this year-long program to learn how to be a tantric coach. And that was awesome. And that's when I met you.
Okay.
And I did coaching for like four years. Yeah, from 2019 to like 2023. I was
Right,
like,
because I think
coach.
Stephanie stayed in my home in 2019. I think that fundraiser was somewhere in 2019
Yeah.
or 2020.
Yeah,
It
you were
was
one of my
before
first
COVID,
clients.
and I like never followed through. I really missed the boat, honey. We can talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that. I love coaching. And I miss the erotic interactions. And I found myself thinking, like, how am I going to bring it all together? And last spring, I did a training with the School of Consent.
Okay. I'm writing down Layla Martin, School of Consent. I love all this.
This is based on Betty Martin's work
Okay.
around the Wheel of Consent. And so it was a professional training, another professional training. And it was all about using the Wheel of Consent in whatever capacity you worked with clients. And that really opened me up to add touch back into my services.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And now I'm able to like integrate like sex work and coaching and create new things. And that's really exciting.
Because this Wheel of Consent gave you a structure to do what you really wanted to do, but you didn't have the framework to do it in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that
Okay.
because it's just so beautiful and I just spent a week thinking about my desires, really.
Mm, mm,
And then I had like this new framework. I was like, oh, this is really flexible.
mm. That's so awesome.
Yeah. And they don't tell people how to practice. They are just presenting a philosophy. They're
But
not.
tools that you can use
Yeah.
and apply to whatever you're
Yeah.
doing it in. Because it's like you're bringing you to the table.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what is this like? What are some of the things that you learned in this like school of consent that have
Um,
helped you?
Really, it's about communicating your desire
Okay.
and how you can like ask for what you want. Um, so the quadrants of the Wheel of Consent, there's 4 quadrants.
Mm-hmm.
There's serving and receiving and taking and allowing. And they kind of pair. So
Okay.
like serving and taking are both active. Someone is doing a thing.
Okay.
And then allowing and taking, someone is being done to.
Okay.
But there's the gift that can go between these quadrants. And the gift is like, who is this for?
Okay.
So if you're taking from somebody, then they're allowing. And the gift is for the person that's taking.
Okay.
The person that's allowing is giving that
It's
person.
giving. Yes. Yes.
And then if you're receiving and someone's serving you,
Mm-hmm.
the gift is for the person who's receiving.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're able to like break down a sexual experience or simplify it in a way like I want to receive this thing,
Mm-hmm.
and your partner says, well, I'd like to give you that thing, then it's just beautiful. Like then there's like magic can happen, like communication can happen. You can be getting what you want instead of like both people thinking they're giving the other person a thing
And they're not.
and nobody's happy because nobody's really getting what they want. And they both
Mm,
feel like they're serving
mm,
or like,
yes.
anyway, so it's more philosophical, but like there were just a lot of practices giving, like asking for what you want, saying yes or no to people's desires. That was fun.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well,
And people get all sorts of things with the work.
is there anything, and this is, an assumption about my listeners, so I apologize, listeners, if I'm assuming wrong. But is there maybe some like technique or tool or process or gift or that you want to like around pleasure that you want to leave our people with? I know I didn't ask you this ahead of time, or is there something that, we or I can be doing, or some invitation, around pleasure that's there?
I like to start simple, like making space every day for a little bit of pleasure, like a meditation, like how you make space to meditate. And you like
Yes.
open yourself up to a certain experience. You
Yes.
can do that with pleasure. And that can look like touching yourself. That could look like exploring an object and like really
Like feeling it and being
feeling
with
it,
it.
like
Yeah.
being in your body and
Hmm.
seeing what sort of pleasure you can find.
So really just like you would meditate, allowing space and time to explore pleasure, whether it's,
Yeah.
I love that.
Could be with a partner, could be going for a walk outside or eating a piece of chocolate.
But
Everybody gets to
really
choose what it is for them.
inviting pleasure into your life. It's
Yeah.
really about being conscious and choosing that rather than,
Yeah.
yes, right. It could be taking a warm bath,
Mhm.
playing with feathers,
Yeah.
rolling around in the grass.
Yeah. Could be different every day.
Okay. Well, is there anything that I haven't asked you that you wish I would have that you want to share about, or
I feel like
anything else we need to talk about?
we haven't really gotten to the Goddexx of Pleasure.
Okay. Oh, well, by all means, Goddess of Pleasure. Tell us about the Goddess of Pleasure.
So the Goddexx of Pleasure has been like another layer of exploration, a widening of the lens. Um, that has been like a creative endeavor
Ooh.
with my partner Nico. We have been creating visual content for people to find pleasure with.
Wow. I love that.
Yeah.
And when did you give when was the Goddess of Pleasure birthed?
The Goddexx of Pleasure was born about a year ago.
Okay.
My partner had been experimenting with OnlyFans,
Yes.
and I got up the courage to ask them if they would make an OnlyFans page for me. And that was about a year ago. And now I have like 2 OnlyFans pages. I have like all this other content. That's been a whole new world of exploration.
And I feel the energy of excitement and aliveness as you talk about it.
It's been
Yeah,
fun.
I really feel like it's just like it's exhilarating for you.
It has been.
It's you've given yourself permission to just express. And I love that you started the description as creative, right? Because that's what we're doing is we're creating.
It is, yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
yay.
So it's
And look
another
at
way
all
for people to interact.
right,
Most
and
of
look
the
at all
people to
the
interact.
pleasure that you're creating. Oh
Yes.
my God, look at all the pleasure you're creating
Yeah.
for yourself and others. Well,
Yeah.
good for you. Oh my God. That is exciting.
Thank you.
That is really exciting that you're just allowing yourself to um go as you're called. Like it's this call of, your soul, your heart, your being. Like it feels like really yummy and juicy.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's how it feels to me.
Yeah, it feels yummy and juicy. Yeah.
It's been so fun. It's been like play. Like I get to play with people
Oh
and I
my
get to make
gosh.
pretty things and get dressed up
Oh
and
my gosh.
have like people pour adoration on me all the time.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. Well, anything else you want to tell us about the Goddess of Pleasure?
The Goddess of Pleasure wants people to have more pleasure.
Yes.
She stands for her pleasure, everybody's pleasure. She believes that sex and fantasy can be healing.
Yes. Yes.
We can like heal our deepest wounds through pleasure.
And you demonstrated that recently,
Yeah.
right? You demonstrated that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And there are a lot of wounds out there around, sex and pleasure. And so, it's really awesome that you're standing for that. And, I invite our listeners to, really give themselves permission to explore, any of those, it might not be their fifth grader, maybe it's their eighth grader or their 12th grader or their 21-year-old, but
Yeah.
let whatever that wound is, be healed through
Yeah.
pleasure and through communication and through giving themselves permission to really, wow, this is what's going on. This is my trigger. Oh, wow. And like to feel like you did with your fifth grader.
Mhm. Yeah, we can, there's so much power that we can tap into with pleasure that can open things up.
So, have you at all, because when you say that, it makes me think of the concept of sex transmutation. And have you explored that or read anything about it or experienced it yourself or familiar with that?
I am not. I'm curious.
So, I want to say that the first time I heard about it was in who wrote Think and Grow Rich? I feel bad. I should know his name.
I can
But
look
there
that up.
was a chapter on sex transmutation, and the concept is, and I'm not the expert, but the concept is that, it made me think when you were sharing that energy, that sexual energy is a creative energy. And so rather than actually like having the orgasm or having the ejaculation, that you're holding that energy back and then utilizing it, like somebody that might be like
Mhm.
creating you know like some patent or some business
Yeah.
idea or some like, so using that sexual energy in a way for your creative efforts, right? So, speaking to the power of
Yeah.
sexuality and sexual
I love
energy.
that. I
Yeah.
don't think you need to hold it back. I think you can make it bigger and bigger, and then you'll just have more.
Okay. Well, I get that. I understand. I understand that. That makes sense. But I'm just sharing that was like the concept,
Yeah.
was that,
That's,
that,
I love
that
that. I
like,
think you can definitely use that energy for other creative pursuits.
okay. So it is.
So it is.
Well, is there anything else we need to talk about? Do we feel complete?
I feel good.
Okay.
Pleasure is
Um,
ecstatic. It's all a
mhm.
prayer.
Well, I love that you say it's all a prayer, because um, I'm at a loss of words, but I usually end, my ritual is to end our sessions in prayer, since it's prayers and pussy. So, one of my gifts, I'm the prayer warrior. I love to pray. So, I'm gonna do a prayer for us. I'll put, if you would love for our guests to connect with you, I'm happy to put your information in the show notes. You can feel into if that's I
Yeah.
know you were talking about like, I'm just barely coming out publicly, but we can put your,
Yeah.
you gave me that link. We can put that in the show notes. And so if anybody wants to connect with Anja, she is available to support you in whatever way. She has a plethora of knowledge and skills and desire to support you in your pleasure. And so I'll put that in the show notes. And then also, if you, want to connect with me and you want more interactive experience, I lead a meditation Monday through Friday, and I'll put that in the show notes. And you can reach me on my website if you want a counseling session. So thank you so much for just coming on and sharing your journey and being so authentic and like really being that goddess of pleasure and holding that space for all of us to really own our own desires, and the invitation to, connect with our own desires and give ourselves permission to share what those are.
You're
So,
welcome. It's my
so,
pleasure.
so with that, I'm just gonna close this out in prayer, just recognizing that one mind, that one power, that one infinite intelligence in all, as all, through all, my life, the one life, the life of Anja, the life of any person that has ever or is yet to visit her OnlyFans page, or any of her clients or any of my clients. We just know that God is expressing in, through, and as each one of us. And so we just affirm and know pure joy, pure, limitless joy and pleasure and peace and passion and connection, divine right communication and relationship. And so we just bless all of our relationships. We bless our beautiful body temples. We bless the divine idea of desire and giving ourselves permission to just fully be that human being, exploring our bodies, exploring our pleasure, unpacking any of the wounds that may have presented themselves in our upbringings that are preventing us from fully experiencing that pleasure. We just know that we are just joy expressing. And so I bless each person that is hearing this beautiful interview, is hearing this podcast, just knowing that they are pure joy, pure light, pure love, pure being, and that they're free to express themselves authentically, wholly, and completely. And so for this and so much more, I'm just truly, truly grateful. I just give thanks, saying, releasing this part of the action of the law, knowing it's complete, knowing it's done, saying, and so it is, and so I let it be. Amen, 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 amen. Thank you, Anja.
You're welcome.
Okay, bye, everybody.
Bye.